What's going on, guys? This is Jag, Bertie, and today we're going to be talking about sex. Talking about sex as a man, being exposed to kind of sexual topics, and just, I guess, the overall concept of being comfortable talking and being in your sexuality. So, Bertie, I think we spoke about this earlier, but essentially, what we spoke about was feeling uncomfortable to talk about sex with someone else. Can you go through kind of your experience, and then I guess I'll go through mine.
Yeah, obviously, I used to find it just deathly embarrassing talking about sex or any aspect of like masturbation or any aspect of sexuality, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, it used to be just like so embarrassing in my family. Like if I remember my dad tried to have the talk with me, and I was just dying.
What is going on?
Yeah, and like even like when there were like kissing scenes or something in films when I was with my parents, I would just be like dying inside. But a lot because of like my dad would he would always make the same joke of it, and it's just you could tell he was uncomfortable. But yeah, as I've learnt to kind of be more comfortable with my sexuality and talking about sexuality, sex, it's really it's been really like empowering, I'd say, and like grounding, and yeah, it feels important for like kind of almost getting sex off my mind. Like I think the more it was repressed, the more it was actually on my mind.
For sure.
And yeah, helping me just kind of be more normal with people, especially with women. It's been really, really good.
Yeah, cool. I think same as me. I think maybe even like, I don't know if it's quite a taboo thing, but like talk about sex in like an Asian kind of background as well. Not many people talk about it. Even like when we used to watch TV, I used to watch EastEnders, and there'll be scenes where like people have making out or kissing or like having sex even, and I would like change the topic, I'll change the scene, or I'll just change the channel and like try and fast forward it if it's like
when you're on your own or when
it was parents.
Right.
So
wow, so you actually changed the channel.
I would change the channel.
Did you say why or?
No, there was just silence. I would just look at them, and they would just like look away, or there'll be just silence, and it's just an awkward moment. And it shouldn't be awkward. Like nowadays it's not, but back in the day it was. So like I would just pretend to change the channel, or if I could skip it, I'll skip it. And everyone would know. Like everyone knows what's going on. My dad never really spoke about sex at all, like growing up. So like I mainly learned about it at school through friends who weren't old enough to have sex. But and then like and then probably with porn as well. So those are probably my three main teachers, and those aren't great teachers. But I remember like the first thing that came into my head right now is like when I was, I think, 15 and becoming a drama class, maybe even younger than that, maybe 14, 15. And then one of the kids goes to the teachers, he's my age, he's like, oh, sex is great, isn't it? It's like a cardiovascular exercise. And the teacher goes, yeah, like, it's really hard work. And I'm just sitting there like, how does this 15-year-old or 14-year-old has had sex already? And I was like thinking, what? Like in my head, I was mind blown. But yeah, I've never really spoke about sex, even with friends, until like I was like probably 18. Even the topic of talking about girls that you like wasn't a big thing. And then after that, I guess probably early 20s, and I'll start to explore myself, go out, meet new people. And as I become more comfortable, like talking about sex, being comfortable in my sexuality, I think that's when I realized that actually, like, there's a lot of repression that I've had as a child. And that repression, I guess, like you said, it's led me to fantasize about sex or put it on a pedestal when actually, like, I remember like the first kiss, like you always like put it on a pedestal, you do it, after a month you're like, oh, on to the next thing, you forget it. So like, yeah, like I think the more you repress it, the more it's kind of suppressed within you, the more you have those urges, the more you can become more perverted. So all these factors. So yeah, for sure, I think talking about sex, being comfortable with sexuality is is important as a man, especially. Having that space is important. I think we were saying like people in Spain or Sweden who I've met, just more open, more liberal. They just talk about sex. It's maybe like not like a taboo topic at all.
Yeah.
And then the other factor I was going to say was social media now is so much like just sexuality is thrown at you. Not even like healthy sexuality. I would say it's more like, you know, like the extreme end where like look at this OnlyFans, all of this like twerking, all of this is promoted to a point where it's kind of like ingrained in you to like be sexual, look at these people as sexual, and not like an intimate way as well. So I guess there's a difference between sexuality, talking about sex, and being intimate with someone as well.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually, thinking about it. Not heard it put like that before, but yeah, like I kind of see sex now as it's like a game. It's like a game. It's like fun. It's like it's meant to be kind of like almost like playtime.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way it's been in the past and where it's, you know, in porn and everything, it's like this very aggressive kind of dominate, like it's like an act. It's like a whole act as well. It's
it is,
like,
it's performance.
Performance, yeah. What you're talking about with like people in Spain and stuff like that. I was telling you about like my friend who's German and like well, he's half Spanish, half German, and like he would just walk, you know, in Spain, and there'd just be women with their tops off, and he just didn't. It just wasn't a big deal for him. For me, it was like, what, like really hot Spanish woman with their, you know, it's like how are you not like got a boner or like I don't know, like
you're not even like looking at them.
Just like obsessive, like, and but it just wasn't a big deal for him, and also like he was getting undressed in front of me, he was getting changed in front of me once, and he took everything off, and he was still just like having a conversation with me with his wang out, and just like it was the most kind of like natural thing in the world for him. Where I was just like trying to like stay normal because it wasn't normal, like
of course me, like, trying to pretend that everything's normal, like not overthinking it.
That was just not normal for me, like growing up. It was all very like hidden, and like it's not, no one was comfortable with being asexual, being and having their genitals out or being naked like that. So of course, like I grew up and I was the same.
Sure. Cool. Any final points? I've got really nothing coming to my head.
I've been reading like Osho's books, and he was talking about like you know, if you go to tribal cultures and ask them about things like prostitution, they're just like, what? Why do you have that? And it's probably the same with like pornography and stuff like that. It's like they're just like, what? Like they just don't get it.
The weird thing is like society's changed so much, so like that's all that's promoted now. And people, I guess women who are in that situation where they are being like sexually provocative and like dressing up and doing all these things, they're getting paid for it as well, so you can't really complain as well. Like if you're like a young 14-year-old looking at all of this social media stuff, you think it's all right, everything is fine. But then it also affects, like you were saying, like affects your kind of intimacy as well. Like I remember when I was first like becoming more like comfortable with my sexuality, and I was meeting women, I was like dating, it was a lot more harder to be more intimate. I would be in my head a lot. I would be thinking about a lot of things, a lot of the performance. I'll be like, I need to do this, I need to do this, lead on to this, because that's how I've seen it in porn. But then I guess as you grow older, as you start to experiment, as you start to like peel away these like beliefs and all these things that you learn, you start to realize that it's more about just being in the moment, being present with that person. And I guess that's when you're really comfortable in your sexuality as well.
And I think women know, and I think it's probably both ways. It's like I know when a woman is doing something she learned off porn, and I'm sure she knows the opposite. It's like, he's learned this from porn, and it's like, alright, fucking hell, it's like do your thing, but she's probably bored.
It's like regurgitate. It's like it's a performance, like you said. It's not like they're not with you in that moment. Like I guess when you're in that moment, the other person knows what you want, or it's very just it's a lot more slower and just a lot more like, I don't know, like
Intimate.
heartfelt, I guess. Yeah, intimate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anything else?
Maybe I don't know how interesting this is, but he Osho was also talking about like how sex or like being naked kind of reminds us of like animals and like, you know, and how it's like it's what's the word, degrading to like the ego to think like, oh, at the end of the day I'm just like a horny rabbit. It's like there's not much difference between me and the animals.
So he's saying that it's like a grounding thing, like
he's just saying that's fact. It's like sex and you know, sex and nakedness, it's like it's just totally natural.
Yeah.
And like quite a lot of civilization is about being civilized, and it's getting away from you know, kind of the base natural instincts.
Yeah. Because I guess it's like, if you're having sex with someone, I've never met anyone who wants to keep their clothes on. To be fair, early on, I was probably insecure, so there was a stage where I was like keeping my vest on, my shirt on, and that grew out just as I got more confident. But I guess there's an element where like when you are in having sex, you are spontaneous. Like there's moments when you're really into it and you do spontaneous things, and it might seem weird. And that's kind of like animalistic, I guess, in a way. Whereas when you're doing a performance, it's almost like it's not scripted, but it's like you know, you're thinking of what to do next. So it becomes boring. It becomes almost like unnatural, unspontaneous.
But it looks great on camera, apparently.
Well, yeah, I guess it does. And make a lot of money, so I guess it does. But then that's a scary thing. We're going to reality where you're literally masturbating off someone's screen. Like you're fantasizing about a girl you've seen online that you haven't connected with. There's no physical touch. Love language wise, love languages, as you know, there's 5 different concepts, 5 to 6. If you don't have physical touch, it's like, what's going on there? You're going to be lonely. You can masturbate, you can talk to beautiful men online, but you're always going to be lonely because there's no physical touch. If that's your love language. I guess if it's not your love language, then you're sorted.
Well, I don't know about that.
Not sorted, but I'm joking. Yeah, interesting. What is that book? Osho, Sex Matters.
Sex Matters by Osho.
Definitely check it out. Anything else? Any final remarks?
I don't think so, no.
Perfect.
No.
Thanks for watching. This is technically episode 4. It's Bertie and Jag. Thank you.